Shot waiting game.
I was able to get a pneumonia shot and a shingles shot, but I couldn't get a flu shot.
Residents say they can't get an appointment, while the government insists there's no shortage. We ask the province why the supply is not meeting the demand. Plus,
as cases of COVID-19 rise in Toronto, a growing number of hospitals in the city are declaring outbreaks.
The fact that there's several institutions that are having an outbreak, it is concerning.
I'm Dahlia Ashery, and tonight we tell you where the outbreaks are happening, and we get reaction from medical experts.
And we speak with an artist about a new multimedia installation at the Bentway.
As a Black trans person myself, it's so exciting to see us, large and in charge right in the middle of public space.
Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. 2 more hospitals in Toronto declared outbreaks of COVID-19 today, bringing the total number of hospitals in the city dealing with outbreaks to 6. Dahlia Ashery has more now on the growing numbers and advice from medical experts.
At Scarborough Health Network, 6 patients were infected in 1 unit at its general hospital. That unit is closed to new admissions to protect patients and staff. And at St. Michael's Hospital, 5 staff members have tested positive. But Dr. Matthew Mueller doesn't want this to deter people from coming to the ER.
Enhanced cleaning in the emergency department and enhanced use of personal protective equipment by our staff.
Dr. Matthew Mueller says the staff infected don't work directly with patients, adding the risk to others in the hospital is low.
There have been no patient cases affected, and we believe our emergency department is safe for patients to continue coming and seeking medical care.
Meanwhile, the University Health Network says its outbreak includes 4 patients at the Toronto Rehabilitation Institute. St. Joseph's Health Centre, Toronto Western Hospital, and CAMH have also declared outbreaks amongst staff or patients. An outbreak is declared when 2 or more people could have caught COVID-19 in hospital and test positive within 14 days. The province calls the outbreaks concerning.
Because that impacts the hospital generally, because that may take an area of the hospital out of activity, and also the staff may get infected. So there's a number of ramifications, but in fact we are seeing an increase in numbers.
Certainly the fact that there's several institutions that are having an outbreak, it is concerning.
This infectious disease specialist says hospitals are quick to take immediate action, but it's crucial that Torontonians continue to take safety precautions.
This is no time to let our guard down, especially now. So really, this is the time to put on a mask when we go inside, to spread apart, to stay within our family units, to avoid crowds, to keep our hands clean. And we'll do okay. If we all do that, we'll do okay.
Dahlia Ashery, CBC News, Toronto.
Another 841 cases of COVID-19 in Ontario today. The province's 7-day average is starting to climb again after a brief lull. While the numbers aren't good news, they are not as bad as the predictions.
We are still below what the modelers were saying that we might be at this time, who predicted we'd be well over 1,000 to almost 1,200 cases a day at this time. And so that's, well, we can take some solace in that. We have not driven down the numbers well below our level where we peaked about a week or so ago.
The province also reported 9 more deaths. Toronto remains the hot spot with 335 new cases. Peel in second with 162 cases, followed by York Region seeing 106. 74 of the newly confirmed cases are school-related, including at least 49 students and 5 staff. For weeks, politicians and health officials have been clear. Get a flu shot this year. There's concern that a flood of severe influenza cases on top of COVID-19 could overwhelm the healthcare system. But getting the flu shot right now is proving to be a tough task for some. Ali Chiasson reports.
'Tis the season, flu season. Time to roll up the sleeve and get it over with.
Piece of cake.
Getting the flu shot is easy. It's booking the appointment that's the hard part. Toronto Public Health Clinics launched their online booking site on Tuesday, and already most of them are fully booked. The next available appointment is November 17th. You can try to go elsewhere,
I started by going to my doctor's office and asking for a flu shot. I was able to get a pneumonia shot and a shingles shot, but I couldn't get a flu shot.
Valerie Bell has been trying for the last 3 weeks, calling big chain pharmacies, private ones.
Last night I went to Costco because Costco is also giving flu shots, and I thought they might have one. They didn't have it either. It's really frustrating because the government wants us to basically have these flu shots as quickly as possible.
I asked Health Minister Christine Elliott why the supply is not meeting the demand.
There is no overall supply issue. We ordered 700,000 more shots this year from last year, but the shipments come in on set schedules from global manufacturers. So there may be temporary shortages in some physicians' offices or nurse practitioners, as well as in some pharmacies, but it is only a temporary shortage.
The minister says this happens every year, but isn't this year supposed to be different? The urgency in getting the flu shot so that flu cases don't bog down the health system during the current COVID-19 pandemic?
They were set schedules that we're not able to change because, of course, the global manufacturers are shipping vaccines across the world. We are relying on the shipments to come in, as they always do.
She says those schedules were set before COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. I asked the Ontario Pharmacists Association about that.
I think it helps to just inform on how this whole process works with the manufacturers and the planning, because in fact, planning for every flu season starts in early February. It takes them time to ramp up their production, and that's why the supply comes to government in stages, and the full complement doesn't come until November.
Bates says this first round of vaccines was early.
It will normalize once more supply replenishes and you get through that initial wave of demand.
Any advice to put out there, like call ahead kind of thing?
Yeah, my best advice would be call ahead, go on the websites of the pharmacy of your choice, and there's lots of options in every community so that you're not having to drive and enter different locations. I think whenever possible, book an appointment as well. I would say appointment-based model is the safest and most effective way this year to get administered the flu shot.
A lot of pharmacies right now are booking flu shot appointments for mid-November, and that's around the same time period as the Toronto Public Health Clinics. But we are expected to get a shipment of vaccines by the end of this week. So before you book online, refresh those websites or call ahead at the pharmacies to make sure that you're getting the earliest available appointment for that time. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Kathleen Wynne had some strong words in the legislature today for the Ford government. The former premier wants to know why the province is moving to make a Christian college run by a supporter of the premier into a university.
I ask that the minister explain to the legislature and to the people of Ontario, particularly to people in the LGBTQ+ community, young people who are questioning their sexuality, children who are being raised in loving gay and lesbian families, why this government would extend the mandate of the most publicly and vocally homophobic man in Ontario. Why, in the name of all that is decent, would this minister validate the hateful, vicious, racist, and homophobic rhetoric of Charles McVety by extending the reach of his Canada Christian College?
I'm proud of the world-class education system, the inclusive world-class education system we have in the province of Ontario.
Under legislation tabled this week, Canada Christian College would become a university. It would then be allowed to award bachelor's degrees in arts and science. The college is led by Charles McVety. The evangelical pastor was a backer of Doug Ford's campaign to be premier. Here's what Ford had to say when asked today about Wynne's comments.
Keep in mind, the Canada Christian College has been open for 53 years under her term, under the Liberals for the last 15 years. So it's going to go through the process, and we'll see what happens.
Next question. CBC News has learned that Ontario's independent board overseeing post-secondary programs is still reviewing the college's requests. It's unclear why the government has already put the changes into legislation. Toronto police are asking for the public's help to locate a man wanted on a province-wide warrant. They say he was released from a holding facility by mistake months ago. 24-year-old Michael Verheyen appeared back in July to answer to criminal charges. The charges were stayed and he was remanded into custody to answer to other unrelated charges. But he was released in error. Verheyen is wanted for a long list of weapons and firearm charges. Police say he is violent and dangerous and should not be approached. The body of a man in his 50s was discovered in a townhouse in Markham today. Now York Regional Police are looking for the person or persons responsible for his murder. Philip Lee Shanik reports.
York Regional Police were called to this townhouse complex near Leslie and Highway 7 yesterday afternoon by someone concerned about the man who lived inside.
We got a call to check welfare at this residence. When our officers arrived, we located a man believed to be in his 50s, deceased inside of the residence.
Police would not say how the man died, but today homicide detectives took over the investigation. They did say the man's 2015 black Honda SUV is missing.
We are actively looking for that vehicle and looking for any information. We do notice that there's a lot of residences in this area with video surveillance. We had our investigators with our homicide unit out all night canvassing.
Very shocked and confused.
Neighbors in this newly built community would see the man occasionally and described him as friendly.
I don't know him, just like any neighbor relationship. Occasionally I'd say hi to him.
This woman says she's known the man who lives at the home for years and that he's involved in the expat Iranian community.
He was so kind. He was a kind man, and I'm so heartbroken to lose such a good friend that we all loved him.
She is holding on to hope that the man found inside is not her friend. Police have not confirmed the identity of the victim or released the cause of death until they have word from the coroner's office. Philip Lee Shanik, CBC News, Markham.
The man who used a van to kill 10 people on Yonge Street made a brief court appearance today. Alec Manassian appeared by video for a virtual hearing. Lawyers say they are close to finalizing details that would see Manassian's trial proceed online. Prosecution and defense lawyers say they are sorting out the logistics of the video conference software. Manassian faces 10 counts of first-degree murder and 16 counts of attempted murder in connection with the April 2018 incident. In early March, he admitted to planning and carrying out the attack. His trial is set to begin November 9th. Nigerians in Toronto say they haven't been able to sleep, worried about family back home. Thousands of Nigerians have been demonstrating against a police unit called the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS. Rights groups accuse them of extortion, torture, and murder. A campaign against SARS has made its way around the world, including here in the GTA. Angelina King has more.
At Simi African Foods in North York, customers can't help but discuss the news back home, sharing their worry, anger, and even tears after hearing from family and seeing horrific video from Nigeria.
It's overwhelming, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a little traumatized because I haven't slept in 2 days.
Amid worry about what will happen next.
My families are not safe. My mother, my sister, my father, my brothers, just because the government has failed to do what it's supposed to do. And the youth are not asking for too much. Fix that country.
After 2 weeks of nationwide protests against SARS, soldiers opened fire at protesters this week in Lagos. The Nigerian army denied any gunfire, but Amnesty International reports at least 12 peaceful protesters were killed. The state governor only confirmed 1 death. SARS was disbanded last week, but protests here and in Nigeria continue, with people saying this is about so much more than police brutality.
No one should ever have to die exercising their human right. No one should ever have to die for peace. No one should ever have to die for prosperity of a nation.
The changing of SARS or the reforming, no, that's not going to solve it. We can never get justice. I'm sure we cannot get justice for the lives we've lost so far. But the only way we can get justice is when these people vacate their offices.
We youth in Nigeria want change in government because the government is not really fulfilling what they promised us during the election.
To help however they can, Nigerians have held a handful of protests and vigils in Toronto, some organized by patients of Agaru.
We are saying no to SARS, we're saying no to bad governance, we're saying no to corruption, and we stand in solidarity no matter where we are in the world.
They're also calling on Ottawa to step in. Yesterday, the Foreign Affairs Minister tweeting his concern and saying those responsible for human rights violations must be held accountable. And Nigerians here say the protests won't stop until there's peace at home.
We in diaspora will have the opportunity, because we're safe, to be able to speak to everyone who cares to listen to help people back home.
Their next step, another demonstration this weekend. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, my interview with Cyrus Marcus Ware, an artist aiming to put Black trans lives into the spotlight. Plus,
some very warm air moving in for Friday. I'm dusting off the Humidex. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Your forecast coming up, and even the cooler weekend. That's after the break.
a new multimedia installation has popped up at the Bentway. The artist behind Radical Love says the aim of his work is to celebrate Black trans lives in public spaces. Take a look.
We rarely see images of Black, non-binary and trans folks when we are walking through the cityscape, and this project interrupts that and celebrates them 10 feet tall, right in the middle of the downtown core.
How did you decide who to photograph and where to do it?
I was really interested in showing a variety of different trans experiences. There's such a varied experience. So I talked to Chris, Raven, and Monica. I was also very drawn to them because they're activists and they have been involved in shaping a lot of trans activism in the city.
How does it feel to see your work in a place that gets so much traffic?
As a Black trans person myself, it's so exciting to see us, you know, large and in charge right in the middle of public space. One of the things that I heard from a lot of trans people was that they didn't feel safe in public space in broad daylight because there were so many people and so many interactions of transphobia that they experienced on the day-to-day, and they often felt safer at night when there was less people. So at night these orbs glow, and it makes my heart sing to think that a trans person who's walking maybe in the wee hours would come upon this and see themselves reflected. We know that spaces like these are contested spaces. They're often places where people live when they don't have housing. They're often places where people gather when they don't have other places to go. These are spaces that are used for public space by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And I hope that these beacons sort of light up a space that is heavily trafficked by a lot of folks who are really marginalized in the community.
What are some of the conversations you hope people have when they see your exhibit?
I think it's not an everyday experience for people to encounter trans people in their daily commute. I hope that this makes people stop and think about who we are actually thinking of when we're imagining our city. Who are the Torontonians that we're talking about? You know, recognizing the vast contributions that trans people have made to the cityscape. I hope that people come away from this and they want to find out more about trans people who are shaping their city.
And there's our foggy skyline this evening, expected to clear up overnight. The CN Tower was somewhere in there. Colette Kennedy joins us now, and the weather has many moods the next few days.
Thanks, Talia. Boy, lots to talk about in terms of what's happening with our weather pattern for tomorrow and then for the weekend as well, because such a contrast in terms of what we'll see with our temperatures especially. So Friday, it's the southwesterly flow. It's going to push not just our temperatures up with the breezy conditions, but the humidity going up as well. We're actually going to have a humidex to talk about. Haven't done that for quite some time. We will have some late day showers, maybe a few thunderstorms as well, but they should hold off long enough that there's going to be some enjoyment in there, or time to enjoy the weather. And then, yes, the cooler readings coming in daytime highs, but also the overnight temperatures as well. I've made this easy for you. I want to point something else out here on the almanac. So the record low, 1969, this date in history for Toronto. Look at this, -7. I mean, compare this to where we're going with our conditions for tomorrow. There was record snow on the ground. I mean, 5 centimeters fell, but on the ground there was actually 13 centimeters as well to deal with that snow that was falling. So some incredible conditions possible in October, and including these conditions that we're going to be seeing on the other side of things. So as we move into the warm sector, overnight tonight, the temperature nearly steady to even just falling maybe a degree or so from where we're at now, and then beginning to rise towards the morning hours as we see those winds turning towards the south, but then they'll start to pick up tomorrow. We'll start off with some sunshine because we're getting clearing overnight tonight. Eventually, after some of this, I know a few areas with a little bit of patchy fog and drizzle, but clearing overnight. Then we'll see clouds coming back in into tomorrow afternoon. Watch the timing on this. So into the early afternoon, we'll start to see some of those showers perhaps starting to poke their nose into southwestern Ontario. The earlier it happens, that's going to put a cap on your daytime heating. I'm still putting you into the low 20s. Takes longer to get to the GTA, probably not till the early evening. So that's even more time to enjoy, if you do enjoy some of the warmer conditions. And then the cold front goes through, the colder air moves in for the weekend. Clouds Saturday morning, clearing into Saturday afternoon. And so we'll look at some of your temperatures then for tonight. Yeah, they're pretty mild, as we'll see those readings going up into southwestern Ontario. Again, the longer that front holds off with any precipitation, the better you're going to do with your temperatures there around the Windsor area. And the longer it holds off, the drier you get, with some sunshine in there to enjoy it too. Overnight tonight, steady to rising with the temps. We may see some readings warmer, like up towards 23, 24, because we're going to have so much time before the front comes in later in the day. Then you go into Saturday, and there's the cooler air, and Saturday night into Sunday, we'll see that seasonal low as the low drops down to about 2 degrees. So real contrast, but hopefully folks can enjoy some of the nice conditions tomorrow, Talia.
Thanks for that, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
A very unusual sight on the Toronto waterfront today. This inflatable Borat was seen floating around our lake. The balloon character, who's wearing a mask as a bathing suit, visited the city to celebrate the launch of the new movie, Borat's subsequent movie film. Toronto isn't the only city Borat visited on his press tour. The inflatable character was also spotted in London, England. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break. City Hall was illuminated purple and blue tonight as part of a campaign called Light It Up. It recognizes National Disability Employment Awareness Month and the many ways people who have a disability contribute to businesses and communities across Ontario. The CN Tower also took part. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.